Welcome once again to the Revenue Throughput Podcast. I'm your host, Jose Palomino, and today's guest is one I'm particularly excited to have on our show because he is truly a master marketer, strategist. He understands that and he focuses on how to take your message out into the world in a real powerful way. So what we're going to learn about is thought leadership marketing from the master of thought leadership marketing, David Newman. And without further ado, let's welcome David to the show. Welcome, David, to the Revenue Throughput Podcast. Great to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here in the Revenue Throughput Cafe.
There you go. I love it. I love the thought of it. Well, David, I was very excited to have you on our podcast. I think there's so many things you can shed light on. Certainly, you're a master of marketing, you're a master of speaking, and you yourself are a business owner that have grown a thriving business practice. So I think there's a lot of ways we can go here. But let's start maybe with just a brief description in your own words about what your core focus is. And just start there, and I'll anchor our conversation the rest of the way.
Sure. So just quick bit of background. I run a company called DoItMarketing, and we're a mentoring and coaching company who work with executives and entrepreneurs who want to build their thought leadership platform. So that means that we work with a lot of consultants and speakers and executives who are transitioning to more of an entrepreneurial consulting role. They want to write books, they want to consult, they want to speak at events, and we help them with marketing and messaging and packaging and getting more clients and generating more revenue. So that's why I love Revenue Throughput, because I know that's your main focus in your business, and that's certainly our main focus in ours.
Wow. So somebody hearing that might think, oh, this guy only works with professional speakers. But I know, knowing you all these years, that's not all who you speak with, people who you would think of as being like a Tony Robbins or something like that.
Correct. So it's about what we call thought leadership marketing, which is simply just a big 3-word phrase for how to market your smarts. So how to put your intellectual firepower in a package that other people want to buy. And what that means is that we've worked with accountants and accounting firms who embrace thought leadership marketing, meaning they want to create content, they want to speak, they want to be more of an advisor or a consultant than just a numbers cruncher. We've worked with real estate agents who embrace thought leadership marketing, and maybe they've written a book and they speak in their community. And so they're using strategies, tactics, and tools from the thought leadership marketing toolkit, even if they don't consider themselves a quote unquote thought leader, professional speaker, professional coach, etc.
So somebody who isn't saying, well, I'm going to give up my day job and I'm going to get paid all this money for being a speaker because I hear that, there's good money in it if you're like the former president of the United States or something like that. They can actually use thought leadership marketing to advance their regular everyday business interests.
Exactly right. So this is about embracing really more of a toolkit than necessarily becoming a full-time professional consultant, professional speaker, professional coach, professional trainer.
Well, I see such application in that because just some of the owners I've worked with through the years are really sharp, on the top of their game. But what they do in their business may not be that super differentiated. They're a manufacturer, they're a machine shop, they do something, contract work. They may work with some big companies, but they've learned a lot about, let's say, quality control, or they've learned a lot about like efficiency in a small business, and getting themselves out there. And, those who are comfortable doing that would actually make them feel like a different type of company, even though they're in a commodity category.
Yes, completely right. So think about when the kind of executive or the kind of owner that you're talking about, they go to one of their professional development events, they go to one of their trade and professional associations, and they see one of their colleagues who's not a professional speaker. We're not talking about the big main stage presentations at these events. We're talking about the breakouts. And the breakout is, Tom Jones from, Little Rock, Arkansas, and he owns a manufacturing company, and he just developed a little bit of expertise, and he was invited to present to a room full of his colleagues and peers. So there's a huge difference. I love where this is going, Jose, because there's a huge difference between giving a presentation, which that owner could certainly do, and it would be high value and high impact, versus being a full-time presenter, where it's like, oh yeah, I go to 50 conferences a year and I get paid $5,000, $10,000 for each time I show up. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about what can you do to be a thought leader in your industry, in your niche, in your particular community, where there may be a whole bunch of manufacturers or industrial companies, but there's always those one or two CEOs, those one or two owners, where they're presenting at the chamber, they're emceeing the awards at the local chapter of their trade and professional association. They're in the limelight a little bit more than the other owners, presidents, and CEOs. And many of us are looking at these people going, well, now wait a minute. How come I don't get to do that? How come, why is he up there and I'm not up there? Why is she doing that and I'm not doing that? And when my clients come to me, I turn the question right back on them, Jose. I say, I don't know. Why are you not doing that? That's available to you. That's open to you. And that would take your quote unquote commoditized company and start to put you as the face and the voice of that brand. And then you can start to participate in the overall conversation around your industry. You can become a real voice that matters. And then guess who starts to notice? Prospects start to notice. Mm-hmm. Customers start to notice. The media start to notice. And pretty soon you are a micro celebrity. Now, that's not our goal. We're not here to make people micro celebrities or mini celebrities. But what would that do for your business? What would that do for your lead generation? What would that do for your existing relationships? What would that do for the new relationships that you want to develop if you became sort of a micro celebrity in your industry or in your community? I will tell you what it does, because I know, Jose, you've seen it and you've done it, and we've seen it and we've done it with our clients. It makes a huge difference. So, imagine Amazon without Jeff Bezos. Imagine Tesla without Elon Musk. Imagine Apple without Steve Jobs. And, Tim Cook runs a great company, but Tim Cook, he ain't no Steve Jobs. He's doing fantastic with kind of maintenance mode and growth mode. He's not blowing things up the way Steve, used to blow things up. So not that you're running the next Apple, Amazon, or Tesla, but the principle of CEO thought leadership and CEO visibility is very much the same.
Well, it's interesting because, I like the idea of the micro celebrity, right? So not everybody's going to be a Kardashian or an honorary Kardashian, right? You have to marry one of the Kardashians, I guess. But it's being well known enough in a very small circle, right? From what you're describing. So like if you're in a hyper niche doing something in the aerospace industry and you're well known for your springs, you make little micro springs and that's what you're known for. No one else in the world even knows that exists or it's a thing. But in your world, you're the spring king of the aerospace industry or something. But here's a thought. Somebody listening to this might say, well, yeah, and that oft-stated truism that people would rather attend their own funeral than do public speaking, right? So how much of this has to be somebody who just has the natural gift of gab versus some other approach to get somebody? And I guess somebody who's incredibly painfully, deathly shy might be a hard transition. But a lot of business owners are talking to people all the time. They're negotiating and so on. So how would you address the person who says, I'm not really much of a public speaker?
Well, I think we got to put speaking in a bigger box because this could be, for example, all the guests, Jose, on your fantastic show. A podcast guest appearance is a speaking opportunity for that CEO. When you're doing a webinar, when you're doing a media interview, when you're doing a live stream on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn Live, every one of those I consider a speaking opportunity. So for the folks listening, and by the way, thought leadership is a lot more than just speaking, but let's just go down the speaking track for a moment. You got to put speaking in a bigger box. That's what I think a lot of CEOs, presidents, and owners are missing. They say, oh, I have to be in front of my big national conference and speaking to 3,000 people. Absolutely not. Most CEOs, presidents, and owners of small to medium-sized firms, they're speaking all the time. They have all hands meetings, they have staff meetings, they have C-suite meetings, 6 people in the room, 8 people in the room, 40 people in the room. That is a speaking strategy. Now, how do you do that outside of the 4 walls of your company, right? That can be on video. That can be on podcast guesting strategy. That can be on live streams. That can be on traditional media interviews. That can be going down to the chamber and doing a spotlight session. That could be a local CEO interview column in your local metropolitan newspaper. So there are lots of opportunities for CEOs, presidents, and owners to become the public face and voice of their company. Yes, it could be public speaking, but again, I would put speaking in a bigger box.
Right. So not thinking about necessarily being that quote unquote platform speaker with all of that, but there's all these other opportunities. And that suggests, David, that from what you've seen, there are many open gaps needing filling.
Oh, yes.
People are like, oh, you're willing to cover that breakout session for the conference, right? So there are opportunities there.
Very much so. Very much so. Especially into this sort of virtual and hybrid world, there is no shortage. I mean, there are literally thousands and thousands of virtual speaking, virtual presenting, virtual interview, virtual webinar, virtual podcast opportunities every single day. I'm not saying there's thousands out there. I'm saying there's thousands per day. I'm taking advantage of one of them right now with Jose Palomino on the Revenue Throughput Show. So I'm doing, this is my version, right? And you and I are just having a friend-to-friend, colleague-to-colleague conversation. This is like having coffee with a friend, except this is going to be listened to thousands of times over the next few weeks and months and years. So this interview is an evergreen asset. Yes, it's an evergreen asset for you, Jose, as the host, but it's an evergreen asset for me as the CEO and as the guest for my company.
And so you start thinking about that. I love use the phrase a few times, broadening. Like there are things that people may have in their heads as true. They believe it's true. And you're saying, well, wait, let's challenge that. So let's challenge what is speaking, right? So we talked about that. But then you also said you wanted to challenge a little bit like thought leadership, what that meant, and that it's not just speaking. So maybe you could just comment on that a little bit.
Sure. So think about, we used to have something that we talk about a lot, which we don't talk about that much anymore, but because it's now more common practice, but I'll certainly share it if people have not heard of this, this 3-legged stool. We call it 3PR. 3PR stands for personalized professional public relations. So 3PR, personalized professional public relations. Now, what does that mean? It's not public relations in the traditional sense of, hey, let's do a press release. Hey, let's talk to some reporters. It is your own, as the name would imply, personal, right? You as the CEO, you as the owner. It is your personal platform building strategy. 3 legs on this stool. Number 1 is speaking in all of its different formats, what we just talked about, put speaking in a bigger box. Second platform is publishing. Publishing simply means writing. And it doesn't mean publish a book, and it doesn't mean you have to write a 250-page bestseller. It can be micro-publishing. It could be, what are you posting on LinkedIn this morning? It could be, what are you posting on your website this morning? What's on your blog? What's on your media page? What's on your About Us page? What is your publishing and micro-publishing strategy? I talk about this in the Do It Marketing book. I call it Happy Meal Marketing. That are people better off just from having consumed your marketing, even if they don't buy anything? Because your customers and clients, of course, they get a beautiful 7-course meal. The publishing strategy helps you do the Happy Meal marketing where nobody leaves hungry. Nobody leaves your house hungry, even if they don't buy anything, because they've been made better off because they read something that you posted, or they consumed something on your blog, or they downloaded something from your website. So that's the second leg of the 3PR stool. The final leg is social media. So social media is spreadability. That's not content marketing. That is amplifying and magnifying what you've already put out there as content. Because one of the things I think most small and medium-sized business owners wrestle with marketing, lead generation, content marketing, we need to separate assets from activities. So think about that for a quick moment when it comes to social media. Assets are, here's my LinkedIn profile. I worked on it so hard. It's so awesome. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's articulate. It's compelling. There's a beautiful header graphic. I have this amazing, fantastic asset. It's like, okay, but what are you doing as far as activities to connect with prospects and customers and partners and vendors and channel partners that would make them aware that this asset exists? Because assets without activity is useless. So there's a set of social media activities that you should be doing: prospect research, prospect identifying, prospect targeting, prospect outreach, that you could be doing, not just on social media. So please don't take this as a social media, everyone needs to spend hours and hours on LinkedIn. I'm talking about industrial social media, for example, blogs, portals, communities, forums, and groups where your target market is already gathering. And these can be far away from social media. So there are, name an industry: financial, banking, industrial manufacturing, technology, biotech. There are blogs, portals, forums, communities, and groups that have nothing to do with Facebook, that have nothing to do with LinkedIn. They're just private industry groups where these communities are gathering. They're looking for answers. They're looking for collaboration. They're looking for connections. Are you involved in those conversations in your industry?
Right. People
I would
today,
argue if you're not involved, then you're missing that third leg of your 3PR strategy, because writing makes you credible, right? The speaking in all of its different forms makes you visible. And then the social media / blogs, portals, forums, and communities, that makes you shareable. So you want to be visible, credible, and shareable.
wow, that's really powerful. And I love what you said about the sub industry areas that are outside of Facebook. So I was thinking of just even recently doing some research on Reddit, which is a huge platform, but no one talks about it, as it's just there. And it's not everything's a Facebook group, and there are popular blogs within very specific industries. So it almost seems like the admonition to, let's say, a business owner listening to this today is, first of all, do a little bit of research and find out where your community is actually meeting. Where are they, right? Because just putting out your very nice, as you said, a great, you spend whatever money you spend with the LinkedIn specialist, and you have this incredible profile. It's the best resume you've ever done. But nobody knows, right? So it's like showing up the day after the party. You say, "Hey, I'm here to party," and no one's there. It's not. Make sure you pick the right day, the right venue, the right moment to show up. And then you also hit on the connection of these three things. And what I love about it, David, is none of these three things, or taken even together, they don't sound impossible. This doesn't mean quit your day job to do these things, right?
Right.
So what would be, for an owner listening to this saying, gee, where do I get started? What would you recommend would be maybe like, okay, do these three things this next couple of weeks, and you'll start the wheels turning? What might that be?
Yeah. I think probably out of these three things, writing is probably the easiest. Some people aren't comfortable on video. They don't want to get involved, or they don't have the lights or the green screen. And, by the way, it's not about the toys. You can be sitting at your desk. You can have just your regular background behind you. You don't need a fantastic painting like Jose has, or the magic bookshelf. Everyone now, since the pandemic, has the magic bookshelf behind them, me included. You don't need any of the fixings. You don't need any of the trappings to do video, but I still think writing is easier. Here's your assignment. The Gettysburg Address is 272 words long. Interestingly, the Wall Street Journal, when you write a letter to the editor, they have a limit of 272 words. I only found this out recently. So they will never publish anything more than 272 words. The thinking is good enough for Abe Lincoln, good enough for you. Here's your homework from this podcast episode. Write a 272 word opinion piece about some trend or some technology or some regulation or some issue that is big in your industry right now, not for yourself, but for your clients. So something that is on your clients and prospects and customers' mind right now, write 272 words of advice, insights, guidance, or help that will be valuable to them. That's your first piece of Happy Meal marketing. Welcome to Thought Leadership Marketing, everyone.
There you
That is
go.
now your first piece of Happy Meal marketing. And then post it. Post it on your LinkedIn, post it on your company's website. If you have a blog already going, make it your next blog entry. If you do any sort of email newsletter out to your customers and clients, put it in your next issue of the email newsletter. But write 272 words of value to help your clients and future clients do better with what they're wrestling with right now.
So you hit on something, and I love that. First of all, it's a doable thing, right? So 272 words, it's like a page and a half, something like that is what it ends up, or depending on what font you use and so on, right? But it's not write a book. So that's the first thing. But the theme, and it runs through all the things you say about your speaking, about your writing, about even your spreadability on social and your engagement in groups and so on, is be valuable. Like, and none of it is being promotional. I mean, or directly promotional, where you're saying, okay, and I've seen this. I've seen where owners try to say, well, I'm on, we're blogging, we're on social, and everything's about check us out, look what we're doing, learn more about our stuff. And I'm thinking, well, even if I was in that category, that's, unless you've invented something incredibly brand new, like the teleportation system on Star Trek, you actually got one to work, right? I wouldn't want to volunteer, but you get the idea. For the most part, I'm not that interested in you or anyone else. I'm interested in something you might have to say that reflects that I can take away. The takeaways. Like today, you shared like incredible number of nuggets of takeaways for us. So be valuable. I think, would you agree, would that be like a thread to make sure that whatever you put out there, it's actually useful to the reader or the listener? And so on.
Yes. So my 4-word replacement for marketing and sales is offer value, invite engagement. If everyone were just to focus all of their business development strategies on those 4 words, they would do much, much better. Offer value, meaning write, post, share, give advice, give help, be relevant, be valuable. Invite engagement is don't just leave the content out there without some sort of ask. Invite engagement can be very, very simple. It can be, hey, leave a comment below. It can be, hey, what do you think? It could be like, share, comment, subscribe, download. These are all micro asks. It's not buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, right? And invite engagement is think about what is the very next best micro step that you want your ideal customers to take in the entire journey of doing business with you. It's not, hi, how are you? Buy my industrial thing for $37,000. It's, hi, please like this and share it on your social media. Please download our cheat sheet, our checklist, our valuable ebook, etc. It's, hey, come to our next free info session about 5 trends in the industry that will help you do XYZ outcome. So what is your engagement strategy? When I say offer value is what we've just been talking about. Invite engagement is invite people into your virtual home, right? Your virtual business's home, and say, hey, have a seat. Here's a comfy chair. Here's a cup of coffee. Have a seat. What else would you like to talk about? What else would you like some help with? What is that very next best baby step that you want your prospects to take after they've engaged with a piece of content? Put that into that content so you're doing both of these things in a single step. Offer value, invite engagement. Sometimes the engagement is literally just like, comment, share. Feel free to share this with your team. Feel free to share this with other people that you think might benefit. It can be a very soft ask, a very light ask. Eventually, you're going to want to have a more direct ask or a more assertive, hey, jump on our email. If you love these insights, hop on our email list. We send these out every week. If you're on the email list, hey, come to our next webinar. The webinar might be, hey, let's book a phone call. Let's book a chat to see how we can help you. On the phone call, maybe that becomes a sales conversation. So you have to think in terms of baby steps and, what's the sale of the moment? Because the sale of the moment is that invite engagement piece that will bring people into your business.
And it comes on the heels of having already given them something valuable that
Right.
they say, well, that's good. Let me get some more of that.
Right.
Well, David, you and I could go on for a long time on this topic because it's really rich and exciting. You've added so much value for us here at the Revenue Throughput Podcast. So thank you for that, David. And if somebody listening wanted to learn more about your work, what you do, and so on, what should be their next step? And we'll include this in our show notes, of course. But if they're just listening, I'd like for you to just tell them where should they go.
Sure, absolutely. So we have two free gifts for folks that want to learn a little bit more. One is our Do It Marketing Manifesto, and that is a 37-page PDF that's nicely laid out, and it's got all kinds of tips, tools, techniques, strategies, questions, checklists, all around revenue growth and more sales, more marketing success. That's at doitmarketing.com/manifesto. And for the folks that are listening and are just thinking about maybe making the entrepreneurial leap into some sort of consulting or training or coaching business, we also have some free web training that gives you the exact roadmap to do that, which is doitmarketing.com/webinar. And that is our consulting revenue roadmap training that I think many folks might find valuable also.
Wow, Dave, that's very generous, and I really appreciate it. We'll make sure that's in our show notes, and for our listeners, doitmarketing.com/manifesto, doitmarketing.com/webinar. And as always, David, it was a great pleasure just catching up with you and talking marketing stuff. It's great.
Thank
Really
you, Jose.
appreciate it.
Great to be here.
All right, thank you.